guys, welcome to Teachers Off Duty. I am Lauren Woolley, Mrs. Woolley in 5th.
I'm Tell Williams, or Mr. Williams pre-K.
And let me start off this episode by saying we just locked Greg out of the studio.
It's okay.
We
Yep.
did.
For 25 minutes.
Listen, okay, he said he had to make a phone call, so we went outside.
I did.
And then we were like, oh yeah, just like knock on the door when you want to
I
come
did not
back
realize
in.
the door locked behind me. I wanted to get some fresh air for literally 5 minutes, and then I realized I had no one's number.
None.
So I'm Instagram messaging y'all. Like, I'm trying to can you call someone on Instagram? And it was like, yes, but you both have to initiate that it's okay. And I was like,
no.
"Wow," and I'm selling smoke signals. I did a whole art project outside.
There's
It's
an
fine.
installation now. It's
There
beautiful.
is. It's amazing.
And it
And
was
the whole
beautiful.
time we're sitting there in the room, we're just like, they were like, where's Greg? I'm like, oh, he was on a phone
He's on the
call.
phone.
And we were like, we don't want to interrupt him, so
I
we're
was
just
like,
talking.
Don't
be
think I'm
rude.
this
Still on the
diva of
phone.
just being like, guys, whatever. I'm just going to take a half hour.
So sorry we locked you out.
It's
but-
okay.
And if you don't know where we record in Orlando, and it was about 2 o'clock, so it was a
Hot?
little spicy out there.
Tad toasty. I mean, I am used to it in New Orleans, but it was definitely okay, how long am I going to be out here though?
Yeah.
Because eventually I'm just going across to the
Like, I'm
donut
never
shop and
freaking
getting
coming back.
I know it.
horrible.
Oh my God. Okay, speaking of needing help,
Yes.
We need
what
it.
needs help right now the most in our lives is education.
Yeah.
And we know we've talked about this on previous episodes on why teachers have been leaving the classroom, but we want to kind of take a spin on it and talk a little bit more about ways that we can help and things that need changed, because there are a lot.
Yeah.
And education is quite literally, as you said, on fire.
fire.
It's we have a lot going on, and so we wanted to just take this episode to kind of chat about that and share some of your experiences that we've gotten from different posts that we've put out. So yeah, who wants to kick off that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's as you're talking about. I think something that's interesting though is we're obviously not going to solve America's struggling education system today, but there's also the privilege of us having a platform,
Right.
And to be able to sit there and as teachers to be able to advocate for those who might not be able to speak out as much as we can, but also hopefully maybe someone along the way hears this as we're sharing experiences, because we know what we're in classrooms, we know it's, and still some of the stories that we were hearing today that people submitted, it was like, what? Which is not
Right.
surprising, but I think it's surprising that it's not being addressed. It doesn't surprise me that's happening.
Right. And it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's very sad. Even just our producer, James, was reading them off a few of the posts that he got off of board teachers. And they were just all of them were so traumatic
Yeah.
and so gut wrenching. I can't, we've talked about our own trauma stories, in the past, and I'm not going to rehash all that,
Right.
but to hear that there are so many people going through the same exact things,
Yeah.
and that the public and that our government doesn't see that
Right.
and is not willing to
Or
make
they
the
do.
changes, or
Yeah.
they do and are not willing to make the changes necessary to save education in this country, is really disheartening.
Oh yeah. And it's really
It's-
safe, like you say, 'cause girls not thriving right now.
No.
Sister education is not thriving in this environment.
Sister Education's trying to pull herself out of the gutter.
She is.
She's
Not on
crawling.
any level too, because I was just in higher ed a couple years ago, and it's getting bad
Yes.
across the board.
Mm-hmm.
You had asked us when we were pre-talking,
Yeah.
we could have recorded the whole podcast and we were just talking. You were talking
I
about,
did, but it's for my personal one.
Sorry. You talked about the effects of COVID with it, and I thought that was interesting about how COVID might have has played a part of it.
I did. Oh, yes, I did.
Do you not remember this? I recorded it too.
I'm sorry. I have trauma from being locked out.
Heat stroke. It's fine.
Yeah, I think COVID did a lot of things in a positive, but I also think everything is how you look at it.
Right.
What I've seen in the classroom, the interesting thing is just the way is the behavior that some children have that I know isn't innately them.
Yes.
And the problem is it's difficult to curb. And especially in something that I teach, I teach theater, and so much of it is body control. And even with kids that have IEPs and that have that I know have trouble controlling their body, it's still something I still push
Yeah.
them to try to do because I'm like, look, I know you're capable of it. And this isn't me asking you to do it because I want you to sit still. I actually want you to use it in the next lesson or whatnot.
Right.
But what I'm seeing is like there's some just blatant like disrespect
Yeah.
of just like, hey, when Mr. Greg tells you to be quiet, let's all be quiet. And then there's kids that need 6, 7, 8, 9 times of
Yeah.
me telling them. Or I'll watch a kid finish a conversation that I literally was like, y'all, I just called you to attention. That doesn't mean, oh, let me finish what I was
Right,
doing.
right.
And
Right.
and the thing is they're kids. They're 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
That means that to me, what it tells me is that is being allowed somewhere else.
Yeah.
And being and I'm sure I know the pandemic was hard on parents, obviously. And you don't want to there's no one blame. It's
No,
not teachers,
no.
it's not parents. But what I think the separation, the virtual separation, the parents not being
Yeah.
able to come into the classroom and whatnot, it's unfortunately just put everything into email and electronic communication, and that's where I'm
Everything feels so
losing
cold.
it. It's so cold. Everyone wants to tell you how to do your job,
Yes.
or they want to have all these fights virtually now. And I'm like, can you just get on the phone and we can talk this
Right.
out? If you want to, like, I'm not going to have 18 responses to this,
Right.
and I feel like it's just between, I think, behavior being allowed at home, parents not knowing how to deal with the kid being
Right.
there that much, and that's just that 2-year time frame of just like, meh. Now it's like, this was the first, I hate to say regular or
Yeah.
normal, because I feel like that's gone. There is
Yeah.
no normal. This is the normal now. This is that first year back. And it's just been I've been in school over a month now. And it's been, because we started the 1st of August, but like I've never seen this long of an adjustment period. Like normally it's like you give a kid
Yeah.
a couple weeks. All of us, between the kids, the teachers, when I see the pre-K teachers, whom at my school are always just the most fun women, when I see their faces were sullen for the last 3 weeks, I'm like, what is happening,
Yeah.
y'all? And it's just,
Yeah.
there's something in the air right now, specifically between kids I don't think ready to be back, teachers not ready to be back, because I think we're seeing that
Burnout.
burnout. And also, like, I can see in some of these teachers' minds, I'm like, you are planning an exit strategy.
Yeah.
I can feel it. I see it, because it's like, I don't blame you. Why do you want to put up with it? And there are more issues this year that a lot of our teachers have had than I think have ever had. And it's I don't personally have any. That was the loudest I've ever said, PS. But
I love
I don't
that.
have any real concrete solutions, as much as just like, I just want to talk about it. Like, I want to make
Yeah.
sure people are, because I know other schools are going through the same thing.
I want to validate.
Yeah.
I think that, and I don't know that maybe even administrators and not all of them obviously like understand the power of just validating their teachers instead of gaslighting them, being like, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. It's like, but it's not okay right now, and that's
Yeah.
okay that it's not okay.
Yeah.
But we don't have to sugarcoat that, because then what it's doing is it's
Making you feel like crazy.
absolutely, because then you're like, why am
I
I
was
not
just
doing
thinking,
good?
as you were saying that whole thing, I was just like, yes, this has been me. I literally am 3 weeks into my school year, and I feel the exact same way. I don't know what this class their issue is, but they cannot stop talking when I start talking. It doesn't matter like how many positive reinforcements I give. It doesn't matter how many incentives I have. That does not matter. I've
Right.
built relationships already so far this year, and like, it still takes me about 2-3 minutes in between every single like little pause I have to take to do something to get them back on track, because they're constantly just like, they don't care what I'm doing or what I'm
Right.
saying. They're in their own little universe having their conversation, and that's more important than what I'm doing.
Right.
I literally had a come to Jesus talk with my kids like Tuesday morning, because Monday was great. Or no, it was Tuesday because we had Labor Day off. Tuesday was great. Wednesday was like hell on wheels. And then I came back in Thursday and we sat down on the carpet. I was like, all right, kids, we need to have a chat. I'm
Yeah.
like, this cannot happen again, because this, I'm like, yesterday was awful.
Yeah.
And I told them, like, I'm like, you guys come to school to learn, but you also come to school because you need to learn how to human.
Yes.
And you do not know how to human now.
Right.
So we need to help you get that on track. And I mean, even though like last year was a pretty normal year for our school, we didn't have really any virtual anything.
Yeah.
We didn't like, it was pretty normal aside from like, you know, people having to be out
Omicron
from
and
being
stuff.
sick.
Yeah.
But really, we're not going to start seeing kids that are socialized and like have, you know, those school behaviors under control ish
Yeah.
for years because nobody has had a normal year, a normal school experience since then.
What stresses me and worries me is this idea then of so many states just Joe Schmo off the street can teach now.
Oh my gosh, that's so stressful.
Yeah, or let's make it so it's just a quick like 1 month certificate that you can get to do it. And it's like, that's fine if you have someone who's great at math or who is literate and can read and you think that that's all that's needed. There's so much social and emotional stuff that happen. I don't think in all grades, I'm talking pre-K through, I'm talking infant classrooms to, college level, is there's a so much social and emotional skills that go into that I don't think people recognize. And one, we couldn't provide a lot of that over a screen virtually when people were virtual. But even in the classroom, I went back 6 weeks after, everything shut down. We went right back to school. We were year round. And even then, because the parents at home were under a different kind of stress, or home in general, and that kind of threw off, the equilibrium of the child and their world. And I worry that I feel like as teachers who were living it at the time, figured some ways to kind of negotiate these emotions because of what we also learned in school, our schooling. And so I think of someone just coming off the street being like, I can teach math, but if your child is freaking out and crying over this, I don't know.
See, my problem with that also, just like, grabbing somebody to just fill a spot and like, be a body in a room is, and you said it, we don't have a teacher shortage in this country. Shortage. There are thousands and thousands of teachers who would probably love to go back to their job if they had the support, if they had the income, if they had the supplies to do their job appropriately. But the problem is when we grab these people off the street and just say like, hey, you have, a high school diploma and a certificate, come teach this 3rd grade class. Well, now you're diminishing the skill set that every other thousands of teachers in the country spent years spent years in college for, and have probably tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt for. And now you're just like totally downplaying the amount of work and the amount of skill it takes to be a teacher. It's not as easy as just walking in front of the classroom and, showing someone how to do something. No. It's not at all like that. And that's like, I think, a big misconception when people are like, oh, I could be a teacher. Anyone could be a teacher.
Well, that's the profession has been so devalued.
Yes.
Because I've never seen a profession, especially being in this school setting. Because like I said, I used to work with college students mostly. But I've taught this age group for about 20 years just on my own and privately. But now being in a school system with them, just the way parents, and understandably, it's your kid. You want the best. You want to be involved. But the way they will talk to you of like, you're not doing this right, and you're like, and your experience is what, and where's your degree in what? Yeah. Just because you know how your kid needs to learn doesn't mean that I'm not doing my And that's what I think can be an easy start is parents realizing that we are on the same team, we just play different positions. Yes. And so it's like coming to the table with this understanding of like, look, we both have your kids' interest at heart. But until you invite me into your home to critique how you parent, I'm going to need you to stay out of my classroom and giving me this unsolicited and really unfounded advice, and even other teachers talking about other teachers' teaching style, like that's driving me crazy now, is like other teachers knocking down teachers. I had a student be like, my aunt's the 1st grade teacher and she says that this is way too difficult. And I was like, first of all, shame on your aunt for involving you in a conversation between adults. But second of all, please tell your aunt that I'm sorry she underestimates kids so much because I've seen what you can do and you're very capable. But also, I'm not going to go into your aunt's classroom and be like, I have notes. It's not my job.
I will. I'll go. But that's.
I mean, I will. But like,
But that's the thing too. Is job. We talk about the age appropriateness of something, and it's. I think sometimes it devalues what the empathy that teachers are seeing children give when they're we can't teach about Christopher Columbus actually was. Kids can't understand that. They do. The kids understand.
If kids
empathy.
can watch Squid Games, they can know about Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, but
like 100%. Some of the stuff that these kids are exposed to is way worse than any of the true history that they should be talking about.
And it's difficult too, because I've talked about, I'm pretty sure I talked about this, season 1 of Teachers Off Duty, about we're partnering with parents. I'm not sitting here trying to indoctrinate your child. I'm here trying to partner with you. And if you had a relationship with me where you come in and discuss, I remember so much things about like holidays in schools. You can't teach holidays. I said, I've always taught religious holidays in schools, and I've never had an issue, because I will send something out to the parents. I say, let's work together on a book that's not preachy, that just gives the blanket information of what you do, and we celebrate everyone in the classroom. And I've never had an issue with that, because it's an invitation to the parent to partner with me. I get to make that decision of what book we're going to do or whatever, but I'm partnering with you in that process. And I think that's what's missed, because then parents are coming in, full-fledged ahead like a bulldozer, and being like, 10 years ago, teachers were not quitting because they weren't getting paid enough. They were not getting paid enough. Teachers only ask was, can we have school supplies?
Yeah.
And the pendulum, bam. And now it's like, hey, can we just like teach accurate books, or books that, teach, empathy to kids? And it's like, no, like, teachers are leaving now, because now we're being told what we can teach, how we teach it. Books are literally being banned in our classroom. So it's like, if I'm going to work for no money, at least let me enjoy what I'm doing.
They're not having support from any administrator or anybody at their school. And that's not to say that there aren't good administrators.
Yes.
A while back, we had Barry White on. He's amazing.
Amazing.
There are amazing administrators out there, but the ones that are really struggling are the ones that don't have amazing admin.
Right.
And they are tired of getting, I'm just going to say it. They're tired of getting beat up by their students.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to blame the kids, because it's not the kids' fault. It's the fault of the adults in that kid's life that do not have or do not put the supports in place to help that child. And that includes like school staff that are not doing anything, or the parents, or whoever that child lives with. And teachers are fed up, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm going to be blatantly honest. I'm lucky with the position I have right now, that I'm in a very supportive school district that I love. And I'm also lucky that I am able to kind of see teaching as a hobby now, because, really, like, making content has kind of taken over my life and has made like kind of a second full-time job.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to make an income off of that. But I'm going to be honest, if it just came down to my teaching salary, I probably could not afford my life.
You can afford to leave. And I think that's the thing too.
And that's the problem, is like teachers, like, God bless those that, are able to leave the classroom and do something else and find something else to do. But some people are not that lucky and they have to stay. And that's like the only income they have, and they got to make it work. And, it's not the only career out there that's underpaid, but we're speaking from our own experiences here. I mean, I don't have the experiences of some other career that is underpaid. So I'm going to speak to teaching, which is
I've never
grossly
been more
underpaid.
Overqualified for a job in my life, in the sense of like, I mean, I have my terminal degree in my fields. I've have like 20 years of professional experience with it. I chose to come to elementary school because I love seeing potential reached.
Yeah.
But I left this age group because of adults. I left this age group because of parents, because of administrators. Now, I'm the same boat. I have an amazing admin staff. I have an amazing school community.
Yeah.
There are few, I don't want to call them bad eggs, but there's few ruffles in the feathers that just make it very difficult to do your job. Yeah. But I feel like there just is this, if people just, we're never going to agree on how to teach, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. I think the kids should be learning this. But like, I almost feel like everyone needs to like define their positions like on the field of like, okay, look, yes, Mr. Greg taught rent today and it deals with this, or I showed them this and but and I do show videos every class of a show, because I think theater needs to be seen as well as talked about. But I spend hours like curating these and going like, crap. Like, I would love to show this, but does that allow them to go down the rabbit hole? And so I always go to my principal and whatnot. But like, parents, like,
But you're
instead
doing
of getting
that.
mad that Mr. Greg showed them this, that may have had this, it had this in it. You know what I mean? This is the opportunity for you to step in now and be like, okay, what was the intention behind the lesson? And okay, yes, that exists in the world. I don't love you knowing about it, but we'll talk about that later. It's really that simple.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? As opposed to putting the changing the narrative to like, how dare they teach this? You're denying that this is a thing.
Right.
Like, this is an invitation. This is an opportunity for you to go like, hey, honey, I'm not ready to have that conversation with you yet, but I'm glad that you know about it. We'll talk about that in a year. And then reach out to the teacher and be like, I'm a little uncomfortable, but let's just keep an eye on this, as opposed to how dare you is what going from a 0 to a 10. That's what drives me crazy. More than anything. Just talk to me.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I don't think any teacher has it in their mind to be teaching inappropriate things to children ever.
Never.
I don't think any teacher ever has been like, you know what, I'm going to teach my kids about X, Y, and Z today. And like why?
Teachers, for example, in the younger age, okay? I'm going to use Florida as an example. The Don't Say Gay bill, not actually called that, but talked about sexuality, gender, and stuff. What was so upsetting about this is that, one, it's discrediting children who have same-sex parents or what have you. There are so many studies, and someone who is doing clinical social work that tell you that if we know the correct anatomical terms for our bodies, we're less likely to be sexually abused as children.
Yeah.
And so, tell me why we took those books away from teachers, but then you're going to call queer people just existing as teachers pedophiles and groomers. But you gave a resource away that we could use to prevent kids from being abused. And it's one of those things where it's like we look at I'm not teaching them anything. These books are like, My Body books that you get at Barnes and Noble and stuff. They're board books for children. And it's really frustrating to see these things that people that children should know in a very age appropriate
I think
way.
some topics are still seen as like taboo, and it's
100%.
Even topics that are, like you said, just being anatomically correct when referring to
But invite the parents in that day. Invite the parents in that day. We're gonna have a day where we're gonna talk about this. Parents, if you'd like to come, I think it'd be a really good idea for us to share this conversation. Or do you want to copy the book and you read it to them at home first, and then we'll read it in school or what? Partnering with the parents. It's an uncomfortable conversation, and I'm not saying we need to have it in a very strange.
But
weird
just avoiding
way.
the topics doesn't make them go away.
It makes me nervous.
Right.
Yeah.
And I am in a very lucky position because theater can open the door to so many, especially shows that are about things. But I have to be very careful. And this has been my feeling from, I think the first day I ever was a teacher was I always say I want to be I want to be an educator, not an informer.
Yeah.
Meaning, I don't want to be the first resource you've ever heard of something.
Right.
So, because that makes me now the gatekeeper of that for
Correct.
you.
Yeah.
And that is a
That's a heavy load.
ton of responsibility that I did not sign up for,
Right.
nor am I getting paid enough
Right.
for. So, but there's a way of even in a show as simple as Hairspray that deals with racism and deals with sizes.
Yeah.
But more importantly, I wanted to show You Can't Stop the Beat. I spent an hour and a half finding a clip that didn't have Harvey Fierstein in it because I couldn't show a man in a dress. And I'm like, because how do I explain drag to a 5-year-old?
You don't, right?
I don't.
That's not.
I don't. That's not my job. And that's when people think when they're like, oh, gay teachers have this agenda. And I'm like, what? To do drag shows with the 6-year-old? Granted, I would make it fierce, but B, no.
No, that's not.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to teach them about anything other than what exists in the world. But I also am super aware of not what's appropriate. I don't like that word, but what. If you haven't heard about it yet, I don't want to be the reason. I don't want to be the one.
I'm not going to tell you.
I don't want to be number one. I will back it up. So I found a clip that didn't have that in it, so I didn't have to explain that.
Right.
But I realized that but if you deep dive, but then the best part is I have kids that are like, oh my god, I love that movie. I've seen it 12 times, and I'm like, so that John Travolta is in a dress in that. Okay, great. Well, someone else doesn't, so I'm not then going to force that person to then know about it. But I feel like I'm just opening the book.
Yeah.
And it's like, whether you want to read it or not, it's there.
Right.
But I want to teach you that this is out there. And the agenda isn't to, again, teach issues or things. It's really, I do try to teach empathy. Like there's
Yeah.
a whole
Yeah.
movement in theater of the
Yeah.
Empath Project and getting kids to see, talk about, and it's doing very well, especially
Yeah.
in a school that has such a service mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our motto at school is to be boys and girls for others. So I really
Yeah.
try to use theater to do that. But it does take parents meeting you
Yeah.
halfway and going like, yes, we're okay with a little bit of that, or we're okay. Like, again, it's not like I'm like,
Right.
all right, guys, we're going to watch Hair and let's watch
Right.
the end of Act 1 and the nude scene.
Right.
And then talk about
Yeah,
the
but,
Vietnam
like-
War. And like, why would I do that?
And I think some of that is, and I have a hard time saying this, but there are teachers that are out there that are overzealous and they
Yeah.
want to be that. And I will always advocate for a teacher, but like I you got to know your place. My goal is not to sit there and teach a child about sexual orientation and identity.
Right.
My job is if Joanne has two moms, to let you know that some kids have two moms, and we'll leave it at that. And when you say open the book and then give it to a parent, and
Yeah.
the parent can explain whatever you as a family unit think about that. Great, but I want them to know in this classroom, it's okay that she has two moms. Some people have that. We're moving on now. I'm not going to go into detail with
Yeah.
you about that. I want that student to know that she's not othered, and that it's great she has two moms. And now we're going to move. I don't want to teach that because, quite frankly, I don't know enough about how a child will process that at 5. I just want that 5-year-old who does have two moms to feel safe.
Right.
That's
Well,
it.
and when Don't Say Gay, I just because I feel like this is a great moment. So when Don't Say Gay came out, like I felt a tremendous amount of pressure of like, what do I say? How do I do
Yeah.
this? What do I do with my platform for this?
Yeah.
And I realized, okay, so like being at a Catholic school,
Yeah.
I sign a document that basically says that like if I am against anything, if I come out or say anything against the church, that I could be let go
Yeah.
because obviously, and I know that.
Yeah.
But I also knew the place I was going to. I know who they were and how accepting
Yeah.
they were. And I was like, okay, how do I best advocate, not only for my students, but whatever. And I was like, I think being an openly gay teacher in a setting that wouldn't normally accept that, having kids that I know are going to eventually be part of the community, seeing a positive role model day in, I do more good being in the classroom,
Yes.
being a positive
Yeah.
than getting on a soapbox and
Yeah.
doing it. And
Yeah.
I struggled with it. And I was
Yeah.
like, if I get fired, then I'm doing nobody.
Then
Then
you
I'm
don't-
then
that
I'm
child
not
doesn't
helping
have that.
anybody. And so it was just, those are things that are like, okay. But again, it was like, I'm not going to go in there and try to teach anybody. We're not teaching identity. We're validating identity.
Exactly.
And it goes to with teachers
Right.
too. It's like teachers don't want to be appreciated. They want to be seen. So it's not a jeans day.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, girl.
God,
like,
please stop with the jeans
right?
days.
No
don't
one
need
cares
jeans
about
day.
a jeans day, hun. If
Listen,
that-
I'm gonna wear jeans any day I want.
Right.
Stop with the jeans day. It's not an incentive.
It's not.
But I think it also goes both ways. Something that I do, and it's because I have such a great relationship with her, but check in with your admins
Yes.
on the regular
Yeah.
day, not when you just need. So if we humanize each other, so it's just
Yeah.
walking in and going
Yeah.
like, hey girl, did you watch Survivor? Is Survivor still on? Did you watch whatever last night? And it's like, or like, oh my God, do you need a coffee? Let's get a coffee. It's not to bitch
No.
and whatever, but it's like, just those, are you good? How's it going?
And
Like,
do that with
Barry said that
Right.
same thing. And
Do
I,
it.
Yeah.
And with parents, too.
I have a great
Yeah.
relationship
Yeah.
with my admin. Like I will sometimes, and I'm sorry if you don't want people to know this, but sometimes I'll just like text her and just be like, hey, look at this that I did.
Yeah,
about
me
something
too.
on the internet.
Yeah.
And like, I love that. I love that I feel like
Yeah.
I feel safe enough to go to her.
Right.
And, she obviously knows that I'm willing to help if she needs something from me.
Right.
But like, I think that's great to have a good relationship with your admin and not just think that, I can't talk to them unless I need
Something's
them or
wrong.
like unless, it's something business related.
Right.
Like we're all people,
And I
all
think-
trying to do the same
and
job.
the optics of being someone in charge and only seeing somebody when they're either bitching or need something.
crisis,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's like, think of like that in a relationship.
That's
like if your partner
stressful.
was
Yeah.
only like interested in you when they needed something
Yeah.
from you, and you're like, that it just doesn't make for a
No.
good relationship.
And I don't think people realize that we do that with parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not calling. I made it a point to call. I would have a list of the positive things that happened with the student that week, and I would make sure to either write them, call them, or whatever, and say, "Oh my gosh, something really funny happened today.
Mm-hmm.
Your child stood up and sang Country Roads in front of everyone." Like I literally had that happen. I thought it was hilarious, and I called the parent to tell them that because we only call parents and communicate with them, especially during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
over the negatives. And I wonder how much of this, both with parents and parents calling the school for positive thing or sending a
Right.
positive email over their child, being able to, write the entire family's name or whatever, what would have happened if we led with that and it wasn't just calling when there was a crisis that needs solved immediately?
Yeah. And I mean, just going off of things that people need, I know, like, at least in my local area, at least in Ohio, there are tons of schools that are going on strike, teachers going on strike because of their buildings
Yeah.
that they need. I don't know, like, I didn't understand beforehand, and I thought maybe once I owned a home I would understand. I know that, like, levies that get passed for schools are usually, like, come out of taxes.
Yeah.
We
from
hear
your,
levies in New Orleans. Sorry, when I was like levies, I was like, that's a whole nother thing.
No, yeah, no.
We need levies. What are you talking about?
They're it's an additional
Right.
tax on your
Yep. No.
property. And when I was younger, and anyone around me, any adult that was, like, voting or whatever, would be like, "Oh, I didn't vote the school levy because I don't need to pay any more taxes." And I didn't understand back then because I'm like, but it's gonna help the school. Like, why wouldn't
Right.
you do? And I was like, well, maybe someday when I own a house, I'll feel differently. And I don't feel any differently. I will vote for every school levy all the time, every single time. I don't care because in general, better schools actually raise your property value, for one thing. And then on top of that, why do you want to send your children, or it's even sometimes people who their kids have maybe already been through school so they don't
Yeah.
care anymore? Like, you might have grandkids at some point, or neighbors that
Right.
you might care about
Right.
that have kids. And why are we sending kids and teachers to schools that have no air conditioning,
Holes in the ceiling.
no heat, holes in the ceiling, water coming through, mold? There was a teacher that James told us about that said she had to retire early because she had lung issues due to mold in her classroom.
Everything
What?
Lauren said, by the way, was stuff that a teacher submitted to us. They were the rats. There was rat feces over
Yes.
summer. They didn't clean it up.
They didn't clean it up, and then all their supplies were eaten by rats.
Yep.
They're, like, right now the Columbus City school teachers. I haven't checked recently. I don't know what the newest edition is going, like, what's going on with them. But they were, what I'm speaking to. They were on strike because all of their schools are in horrible conditions. They are ridiculously bad. And there's no reason that people should have to be going into an environment like that. And especially since you're making literally $30,000 a year.
You're working.
Like,
You're 30,000. You can't wear jeans and also burn these books. Like, it's
yeah.
like, girl, what's the incentive?
And while those books are burning, you're gonna burn to death in there because we don't have air conditioning
Yeah.
either.
Sorry.
Like, do we not see, like, the things that are going on in education and how this is literally just a
Right.
dumpster fire rolling
Yeah.
down a hill?
Well,
into a vat of acid. Like, I don't understand how we don't see that as a country.
and it's the U.S.
Yeah.
When you're saying this stuff, like, I don't think of the U.S. with
Mm-hmm.
half-eaten school supplies because rats infested it. Like, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's like what we're living in, and like, I don't think people realize what I hated about seeing public teachers go on strike is the immediate thing. I always count how many hours it takes for someone to go, the kids just want to be at school and the teachers aren't letting them come back. It's like,
Don't blame the teachers.
the teachers are sitting there saying, if the mold is bad for my lungs at 50, imagine what it is for a fifth grader or
Right.
a third grader who's breathing that in. So it's like, no, they're not just doing it for them. They're doing it for the kids. And I want to argue too that anytime that they strike for better pay, again, it's not just for them, it's also for the kids, because if you have better pay, you're keeping the better teachers that
Yeah.
are overqualified to be there. I know,
You know
people
how
with
many
PhDs
teachers
who are teaching.
You know how many teachers probably spend the majority of their pay on their kids and on their classrooms? Like, I'm not saying you have to do that at all.
Right.
If you like want to take home all your income and spend it only on you and your family, 100%, I'm
support
all
that.
for
Yes.
you. Like,
But
I get that.
also the hypermoralization though of
Yeah.
teachers in general though. Like,
Yes.
do it. Oh, but the kids just want to be in school. Why don't you just do it for the kids? I was like, what do you think I do? 7 to 4 every day.
Every day.
I
Right.
do that. Like, oh, but it's for the children. I know. My 40-hour plus, 60 plus when I'm doing the show is for the children. Like,
Right.
I'm there for the children. You
Yeah.
get the best of me all of that time.
Right. Mhm.
But like, don't make me out to be the bad guy because no, I can't stay late till 4:30, or I don't want to do an extracurricular for another 2 hours. I just feel like,
Or can I please have a little bit more money so I can,
Right.
pay my rent?
Right.
Like, there
I'm-
are so many teachers that have to have 2-3 jobs just so they can make ends meet. And again, I've already said it. I'll say it again. teachers are not the only jobs that are underpaid, but it's a big problem.
But it's one of the few jobs that not only they underpaid, but the expectations that they fund themselves too. You said, and I think this is so important. I really hope that you had said, you're getting the best of me at school, which means our families are not getting the best of us when we come home. And I don't think people realize the divorce rate, the problems that teachers are having with their kids when they get home because we're exhausted. Like I remember I came home and it was I left temporary from teaching and I came back to sub as I finished my graduate degree. And it was because I came home and my admin was we had 3 directors. One of them was amazing, always went up to bat. The other 2 just progressively got worse. There was a lot of micro racism, micro homophobia that they, spatted at me. And I remember coming home one day and I was just like crying, venting to my husband. And he was like, are you okay? Like it was like so like off the cuff. And I was like, that's so not fair that I trauma dump on him when he gets home. But I'm, Miss Honey throughout the day. Like the school's getting the best of teachers, the best of their finances because the teacher is going to, they know they can take advantage of the teacher and they'll find the fun somewhere. They're getting the best emotional support of them. And then that's why they're burnout. That's why teachers are hightailing it out.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, if things don't change, like I don't know that I could see myself doing this for 30 years.
Oh God.
I'm only 7 years in. Like that seems like a long time to me because I'm just getting started with my career, but like that is a long time to be dealing with that misery of, having to, not for myself personally, but like these poor teachers that are running themselves ragged for everyone else's children and then not being able to take care of their own. Like, I mean, Jordan and I are like getting to that stage where we're starting to think about starting a family. And that is such a stressor to me. I almost am like, I don't know that I have the time to have a kid.
Or teach and then come home to kids.
Like, I can't even imagine what that is.
But that's where
teaching validated my decision to not have kids. Yeah. I was like, oh, right.
But it's just, there's so many different factors that need changed. And, we've only scratched the surface on some of the things that are wrong in education right now. And like, if I could say one thing that you could do now to try and make some changes, start going to school board meetings.
Yep.
Start telling them the things that you're having issues with if you haven't already. I know a lot of people have been very open about the things that they're dealing with in the classroom and outside of the classroom. But please speak up for yourself and please advocate for yourself as a teacher and even as a parent. Advocate for your students' teachers.
Yep.
Because the more we work together on this, the better education is going to be and the more changes that are going to happen. Yeah. So I really think we all just need to start voicing exactly what our concerns are in a not non-hostile way.
Well, like, and uplift not only your needs, but your community and your colleagues' needs, right? Because like there's power in numbers, and when you're validating, like the best thing, if you're in a school system that has no support right now, you've gone to school board, everything, and this is something you can't leave. You love teaching or you physically can't. Having a group of people that you can turn to for validation and support is how we put a Band-Aid on this until we can figure it out.
Yeah. I hate that we have to do that. In all honesty, it's one of the worst things is that, we can't change much in education until the government decides to change a lot in education. And
Lauren's announcing she's running Ohio governor.
Shut up. No, don't put that out there. But it's sad that right now the changes that government officials are making are negative changes and
driving teachers out.
We need to step up and stand up for ourselves and we need to take back education.
There's no right answer, and I just want everybody to get together to talk about it more. If you have to realize that you're not. There's no way to be right about this. You can have all the data in the world. All this proves this. This
not
proves
everyone
this.
has the same need. Not every school has the same need.
Right. Not every school has the same need. Not every and not every teacher teaches the same. Like, and I realize we're running over, but like, I look at a school as a cast of a show. You have the weird art teacher. You have the mean this teacher because it teaches. You have the fun this one. You have the quiet this one, and it teaches kids how to deal with
Correct.
learning
Various
people,
personalities.
various
Yep.
personalities. Yeah. You know, and but I feel like parents are trying to that's another reason is that like trying to take away not only the autonomy over our classroom, but the autonomy over our personalities.
Yeah.
Like our personalities aren't coming out in the room anymore. And you need that. You
do.
need the weird whatever
do.
teacher.
Yeah.
You need all of that because it's like, oh, now that's how I realized my love of science fiction, or I
Right.
loved how
Right.
fun that art teacher was. Because so much of ourselves is why we teach, you
Right.
know? And what like, if we can all just realize that your way isn't the right way, your way is
Right.
the right way for you, you
Correct.
know? And if
Right.
we all admins and teachers and parents get in there and say, what's our goal? Right, to do this. We're not going to agree on how we get there, but if we realize that
Right.
our goal is the same, then I feel like you have these conversations that may be weird or uncomfortable, but they're not so like,
Lean into that.
yeah,
Yeah.
like ending. Like, oh, you are so bad, you need to be done because you did this. And it's
Right.
we just have to all get to that point to begin this sort of
Just hold us to the same standards you hold politicians, and we'll be good. Give us the same autonomy at work.
Yes, please.
Well, I know this was kind of like a serious episode, but I hope you guys stuck it out the whole way through. And please, please take care of yourselves. We hope that you guys have an amazing school year and make sure that you lean on each other for help. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.